Just wait till they settle.
Shibiti Adonai lenegdi tamid. Shibiti Adonai lenegdi tamid. Ay 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 ay
Birth is a beginning and death a destination. But life is a journey, a going, a growing from stage to stage. From childhood to maturity and youth to age. From innocence to awareness and ignorance to knowing. From foolishness to discretion and then perhaps to wisdom. From weakness to strength or strength to weakness and often back again. From health to sickness and back we pray to health again. From offense to forgiveness, from loneliness to love, from joy to gratitude, from pain to compassion, and grief to understanding. From fear to faith. From defeat to defeat to defeat. Until looking backward or ahead, we see that victory lies not at some high place along the way, but simply in having made the journey, stage by stage, a sacred pilgrimage. Birth is a beginning and death a destination, but life is a journey, a sacred pilgrimage made stage by stage, from birth to death, to life everlasting. We miss our friend David. This was his place. He sat over there. He spent every Wednesday and Monday in our chapel. He will always be here. He is always part of this place. He's always part of us. Today is the Jewish holiday of Purim. In the context of the Jewish calendar, Purim is actually a minor holiday. And therefore, according to Jewish law, funerals are permitted on Purim. In fact, according to the Talmud, it's a mitzvah to perform a funeral on Purim. One must do it. It even takes precedent over reading or hearing the Megillah being read. However, and I think David would have loved this and found this quite ironic, David, who loved to give drashot and sermons in our Minyan service, traditionally one doesn't give a eulogy on Purim. But teaching something that you learned from someone, teaching something that we learned from David, is far from forbidden. It's a great mitzvah. It's why we say that a person's memory should be a blessing, so that the example that they set continues to live on and guide us even after they're gone. And so let me illuminate for you a moment, something that David taught me, something that David taught all of us again and again. The mitzvah of showing up, the mitzvah of being present for others. David was the very embodiment of this mitzvah. He showed up for you. He showed up for others. He was there for you, for us, for all of us. And on some level, he would be so pleased that so many people were here. Not for him, but for Judy and Ron and Linda and Ann and Mike and Jordan and Ken and Gada and his whole family and circle of friends. He would be abundantly satisfied that we are here for his family, that we are taking care of each other at a time of such profound sadness and sorrow. David never wanted people to mourn alone. In fact, when David first went into Richmond Hospital, Richmond General, from emergency to an actual 4-bed hospital room, Judy reminded him that her extended health benefits would pay for a private or a semi-private room. And he looked at Judy in that oh-so-patient way of his and said, "But Judy, I like people." Even in the hospital, our David wanted to be a comfort to others by showing up, by being by their side. There is a great rabbinic debate, a machlochet, about what is the mission statement of Judaism. It's recorded in an introduction to a collection of stories in the Talmud called Ein Yaakov. In the debate, Rabbi Akiva says that the mission statement of Judaism is to love your neighbor as yourself. Ben Azai argues that the mission statement of Judaism is the Shema, the proclamation of one God. But the debate is won by Rabbi Shimon ben Pazi, who says the mission statement of Judaism is, you shall offer one lamb in the morning and another in the evening. In creating a spiritual practice and a life of meaning, consistency and constancy are the most important pieces of the puzzle. It's not that the twice daily sacrifice is more important than affirming the oneness of God or our need to learn and love each other. But in order to do either of these, one needs practice and consistency. Honing one's relationship with God or with our fellow human beings, who are by definition an extension of God in the world, is done one mitzvah at a time, with regularity rather than passion. David lived this mitzvah every single day, and particularly on Mondays and Wednesdays. He started going to our morning minyan to say Kaddish for his father. He stayed because he realized he was comforted most not by the prayers, but by the prayers, the minyanaires, as our minyan members like to call themselves. When David first attended minyan, he was disappointed in the small attendance. But then he realized that he hadn't been to minyan for others who had been in mourning, and so his disappointment was not justified, but it could be rectified, he reasoned. And David made a pledge that whenever he was not traveling for work, he would attend minyan, not for himself, but to support others. That was 23 years ago. And he has been there every Monday and Wednesday, short of vacations and illnesses, ever since. His absence over these last few weeks, when his health began to fail him, has left a hole in this incredibly close circle of minyanaires and a profound sense of loss in our temple family. David was, in my experience, a rare kind of human being. Some people are consistent, but they're not passionate. And some people are passionate, but inconsistent. David was both. He was consistent, and he was passionate. He showed up at minyan, at hospital bedsides, at services and holidays, community organizations, anything we asked of him. Day in and day out, David was there. You could count on David. If he said he would do it, he would do it. It was, in fact, his life's motto, his creed, "You are your word, he taught all of us. I can't express enough how important it was to him and how he applied this to every aspect of his life. It was as natural as breathing. It was one of the most important things among the many things that Judy loved so much about him. His unwavering integrity and goodness towards others was a blessing for which she will be forever grateful and for which we are too. This was David's talit. One of the minyonaires brought it to me from the minyan room where David kept it in a closet, so it was there for him every time he came. He wore it every day in our morning minyan. It will go to Ron after this service, but I asked Ron if I could hold on to it for just a moment to teach one more thing that David taught me and taught all of us. The fringes of this talit, if you were to add them up and count them and number them in your fingers, they equal each of the 613 commandments in the Torah. You could go one by one through each of these fringes and tick off each commandment in the Torah. But they're not the most important part of the talit. The tzitzit, the fringes, are not the most important part of the talit, not at least in my opinion. The most important part of the talit is the fabric that holds the fringes together. David was the fabric that held so many threads of our congregation and our community together. He was ever present, connected to each and every one of us that is here through so many strands and lines of connection. David was the fabric, and now we are loose ends of thread. Without him, we are just fluttering, it seems, disconnected. But as he showed us, as he modeled for us, as he taught us, when we connect with each other, when we show up for each other, we weave and form together a beautiful tapestry, a tent, a chuppah, big enough to encompass all of us, strong enough, like David was, to hold us all together. May his memory be a blessing. Amen. Our tradition teaches that we turn to the Psalms to find, in the words of another David, of King David, who, like our David, experienced so much of the vicissitudes of life, so many challenges, so much pain and loss, and yes, moments of joy. And our David, like our biblical David, had more than his fair share of those. One of those psalms is Psalm 23, words of comfort. The cantor will chant those now.
Adonai roi lo echsar bino deshayar bitseni al mei menuchot Aleni nafshi eshovev yancheni v'maglei tzedek leman shemo gam ki elech Begates al mavet lo ira rak yatayim adi shiftecha umishantecha hema yenachamuni תערוך לפני שולחן נגד צוררי, דשנת בשמן ראשי, כוסי רוויה, אך טוב וחסד ירדפוני כל ימי חיי, ושבתי בבית אדוני לאורך ימים.
Let's read together the English of Psalm 23. It's on the inside of your handout. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Amen. We want to extend our condolences to Ken. To lose a sibling is to lose your traveling companion through life. David was your older brother, your best friend, and you were to him as well. And Ken's going to share some reflections and memories about his brother.
You know, at times like these, many memories come flooding back. Things I haven't thought about for over 60 years. As a teenager, David was interested in photography. He built his own darkroom. He built a crystal radio set that he kept under his bed in the room we shared, so he could listen to faraway stations after we were supposed to have gone to bed. Sometimes he would let me listen on the earphone to a station he could pick up from the States. That would be when he could pick up a station from, say, as far away as Texas by what he called an atmospheric skip. But I didn't know what he was talking about. But I was just happy that he let me listen. My brother was 5 years older than me, and when you're young, that's quite a spread. Like when he was 10, I was 5, and he was a 14-year-old teenager, I was 9. So you can imagine I was always a nuisance to him. He could never have any peace with his friends when I was around. On one occasion, he tied me up to a post in the basement so I couldn't bother them. He used to have a Star Weekly paper route. Some of you from the prairies may remember this publication. And when he was 14 or 15, can't remember when, he had his appendix out. So you can guess who had to schlep once a week and deliver the papers, right? And when David was 16 years old, he managed to talk our parents into letting him take a summer job in Regina with a CPR laying track. There was a group of 3 Jewish boys going, and Mom and Dad said he could go. I'm sure there was some consultation with the other parents. Can you imagine Jewish teenagers today pounding in railway spikes far from home? But the job didn't last long, as one of his friends kept giving the lip to the foreman, and he fired them all. And to make a long story short, he had to call home to get bus money to get back to Winnipeg. So in 1953, our parents relocated to Vancouver, and we came by car via the States. This was the time that David and I saw our first TV. My dad was in the furniture business and had seen TV at various furniture shows that he'd attended. And so he made sure we stopped at motels along the way that included a TV. And David and I were absolutely hypnotized by it. The only drawback was that it required a deposit of 25 cents, like a vending machine. And much to our dismay, right in the middle of a cowboy show we were watching, it would shut off. But after much screaming by us at the TV, my dad said, "Put in another quarter." And David, who was now 16, had some spending money in his pockets, and he would pop in another 25 cents, and he saved the day. So from motel to motel, and armed with David's stash of quarters, we arrived in Vancouver completely addicted to television. And when he left his job as an assistant store manager for Safeway, his outgoing personality led to an offer to become an insurance agent. And I asked him, "Aren't you a little nervous about changing jobs like this, as it was so different from what he was been doing?" His response to me was, "Life is like climbing a tree to get as high as possible. And sometimes you can't be afraid to go out on the shaky branches." He said he had tremendous confidence in everything he did. I always wished that I could have that kind of confidence. He was very community-minded, and when he saw a need, he was not shy about pitching in. When he discovered that his daughter Sandra was diagnosed as extremely autistic, he and his wife Marilyn found very little help for families with this sort of disability. So together, they helped form an organization to support children with special needs. And while raising a family in Richmond, he needed to give them a Jewish education, and he became involved in the first Richmond Delta Jewish Community School Association, which eventually became Beth Tikva Synagogue. And he became one of the group of early presidents and personally recruited its first rabbi. He went to bat for Linda with the Richmond School Board when they refused to allow her to play on a boys' school soccer team, which she had tried out for and made. It was such an issue that it made the local CTV News, where David gave an interview. He volunteered with Shalom BC. He volunteered with Yaffa House, which is a Jewish group home centered for adults with mental and developmental disabilities. And as the rabbi had said earlier, when he came to say Kaddish for my father, he realized that there was a need there also. And he dedicated himself to becoming a millionaire. And he never missed when he was in town. He was always volunteering in one way or another here at Temple Shalom. Yes, he was 5 years older than I was, but as we got older, we became good friends, in addition to being brothers. And as the difference in our ages was no longer an issue, I was his best man at his first wedding to Marilyn, and he at mine to Gadu. When he was married at 21, I was very, very happy for him, but secretly, I was happier for me, for at last I had my own room. A few years after his first marriage ended, Gada and I attended a family reunion in Manitoba for all the descendants of her great-grandparents, where to our surprise, we found Judy, who recently divorced, was in attendance. It seems that, unbeknownst to them, they were cousins. We invited them both David and Judy, for Passover Seder, and Cupid's arrows flew. It was Besheret, love at first sight. Their courting rituals that evening were a great source of entertainment for the kids to watch. It kept them giggling all night. David and Judy were so engrossed with each other that day that by 1 a.m., Gada and I suggested that, maybe it was time for them to leave. That was over 30 years ago. Judy lost her soulmate, the love of her life. And as you know, his name was Joseph David Coblin. He preferred to be called David, not Dave or Davy, with a couple of exceptions. He loved my children and my grandchildren, and they loved him in return. And he loved it when they referred to him as Uncle Dave. But to me, he was Duddy. It was a name I heard him called when I was about 5 or 6 years old. And I asked him, "Why did that lady call you that?" And he said, "Well, that's the Yiddish name for David." And I asked him, "Could I call him that?" And he said, "Okay, but only when it's just you and me." So to me, he was Duddy. were obliged to practice tikkun olam, the repairing of the world. And David made many contributions through his life that fulfilled this obligation. He indeed left this world a little better for others. Each of us can make a world better place by our own actions, and I hope we can all be inspired by David's values. He was truly, in every way, a mensch. I have had many friends over the years, but only one brother. Goodbye, Duddy. Gonna miss you, but you'll always be in my heart.
Thank you, Ken. That was just beautiful. And David's son, Ron.
This week has been very surreal for me. But I feel quite consoled that my father would pass away on Shabbos and be buried on a Jewish holiday. It's very benefiting, very befitting of the spiritual man he actually was. I've also felt a deep emptiness and immense sadness thinking about Dad this past few days. Several weeks ago, I received a call from Dad. "Ron," he said, "I need a ride to the blood clinic tomorrow. And I need to get there by 7 a.m. That was typical Dad, straight to the point. I asked, "Why do you need to get there so early?" He said, "To be the first one there. I don't want to have to wait in the lineup." Again, that was my dad. He always liked to be early for everything, but he hated waiting for anything. These last few days have passed very slowly, so it has given me more time to reflect on how Dad has impacted my life personally. Growing up as a young kid, I always looked up to my dad and wanted to impress him and make him proud. We always had great times together. He taught me how to play baseball and football, which led to my involvement in sports later in life. Throughout my childhood and teenage years, I remember him being very strict and stern. I never went to him for emotional support or physical comfort because I was actually afraid of him. Our relationship at that stage of our lives was, I guess, a normal father and son relationship for that time. In the early days, we were one of the few Jewish families living in Richmond. However, my dad raised us with many Jewish traditions because religion and spirituality were important to him. This led him to become a founding member of Beth Tikva and an active member in Or Shalom. After leaving Or Shalom, my dad was searching for that thing that was still missing in his spiritual well-being. This is when he found Est, a philosophical seminar, and looked into himself that changed his whole way of being forever. As he said it himself, he had a breakthrough of just letting go of everything. This really opened up a space in our relationship. He expressed himself to me in a way I never thought would be possible. He said so clearly, "Ron, I am very sorry for not letting you into my life." Then he said, "You know something, Ron? I have not really ever told you that I love you sincerely." And we actually hugged and cried together with a closeness I've never felt with him before. This changed our relationship forever. Since then, in my adult years, I really got to know Dad well. We worked together as partners, representing numerous companies in the gift and garden business. For over 10 years, we spent a lot of time together. We traveled, shared rooms, ate and drank together. We have some great tales and shared a lot of laughs over those years. Dad was a vivid storyteller and made everyone laugh. But in business, as in life, he was a man of action. If he said he was going to do something, he would, right to its completion in every detail. I believe my dad played a large role in shaping who I am today, and I am blessed to have been his son. The values that Dad has instilled in me, which have impacted my life the most, are that your word is all you have to live by, to speak your mind in a positive way, and to sincerely listen to what others have to say. Dad also taught us that family is constant. Friends change, situations change, but your family is always there. So do not waste another moment. Tell the family you love and care for them. Hug them. This could change your life as it has mine. Dad was bigger than life, with a big heart, a big voice, and a big personality. His big soul will leave a huge void in the universe forever. I love you, Dad.
And David's cousin Ruby.
Rabbi, Judy, Ken, Gada, Ronnie, Annie, Jordan, Linda, family and friends. Judy, my dear, dear cousin. You may know him as David or Dave. I know him as Judy. He was my cousin. Cousin. That's family. That's what we're born into. But he wasn't only a cousin. He was a wonderful cousin. He was a friend. Friend. That's who we choose. I was the lucky one to have him in my life. Jerry and I will miss him, as will the rest of my family. If this were in reverse, Judy would be up here speaking about me. I like to think he would only say nice things about me. And he would, because Judy was a nice man. Judy, a Gitta Neshuma, a good soul, a good person, and he had a good life. We hoped and prayed that he would get better. He was just a great guy. He brought so much happiness to so many people. I have had several phone calls and emails expressing condolences. One such mutual friend of ours, Bruce Howard, phoned to tell me a Dave story. When Bruce first arrived in Vancouver and was living in Richmond, Duddy, at the time, was an active member at Beth Tikva Synagogue. He was the synagogue's president from 1974 through 1976. And he was the first person to call upon Bruce, greet him, and welcome him into the community and the synagogue. Duddy befriended him. Bruce said he showed him such an act of kindness, and until this very time, they remained good friends. Duddy was a loyal friend and always there for anyone who needed support, encouragement, or kindness. There's just 6 months difference in our ages, and we were always close. Our mothers were sisters. Duddy actually looked like our maternal grandfather. When we were little, as kids, we would go out together. We'd go to the movies, we'd go roller skating, we'd go shopping at Eaton's in Winnipeg, and then we'd go to Woolworths for Coca-Cola. After the movies, people would always stop and ask us if we were twins, because we both started out with brown eyes and brown hair. We even turned silver at about the same time. I taught Duddy how to dance when he was 12 years old. I don't remember why, but he was probably ready to go to some little dance with some little girl. David always had a great rapport with my kids and with my grandchildren. Everybody loved him. When I told my granddaughter Allie that David was quite ill, her first response was, "Ah, the pickle man. I hope he gets better." The pickle man. The pickle man, with his great sense of humor and his creativity, would go out of his way to recognize your milestone and your celebrations. And he always went out of his way to be a little unique. Duddy knew that I admired his culinary talents. And on my 70th birthday, he and Judy presented me with a case of homemade kosher dill pickles. Duddy was not pretentious. He had such a good sense of humor, and he always had amazing stories that he would be telling, and we always enjoyed listening. You know, I won't pronounce it right, so I won't say from what part of a Torah reading this came, but there are 3 crowns: the crown of Torah, the crown of the priesthood, the crown of kingship, but the crown of a good name surpasses them all. I will always remember him strong, alive, and laughing. We lost a great family man. Judy, you and David had a successful marriage, and I gave this some thought, the word success. Of many, there's one definition of success, pickles and all. When you look back on your life and the memories make you smile. I love Duddy. I always will. I love the whole family.
So I'm here to make sure that you won't get out on time for the 3 o'clock parking restriction. Our relationship goes back some 30 years. Through many life cycle events, funerals, conversions, bar mitzvahs, weddings. A few of you have alluded to the fact of his community involvement. It was so true. I received a call yesterday from my dear colleague, Rabbi Howard Siegel, the rabbi of Beth Tikva, expressing his sadness that he could not be here today. And then he asked me if I could please cover for him this weekend. He was going out of town. So if there are any members here of Beth Tikva, please keep breathing. You know, Judy, this is really a slow group. When, Rabbi, you held up that tallis, to me, a chuppah, but it also signifies a big tent in which all are welcome. And that, of course, was your beloved David. I have many memories, some of which I will share from the pulpit, and others not so appropriate. I remember him calling me up one day here at the shul and saying to me, "Did you ever buy anything on the internet?" I said, "God, no." "I did." "David, what did you buy?" "I just bought a car." At which time I said, "Are you out of your blank mind? What do you mean you bought a car?" "I bought a car, I got a Lexus from Florida. It's coming in a couple of weeks." I said, "I'll be here to greet either you with that shameful look on your face, because there's one born every minute, or the car." And sure enough, a few weeks later, he drove up to the shul in your car. My wife and I have taken, I've lost count how many trips to Israel, somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 or so trips. And all of them are very, very special. But I must tell you, the trip with Judy and David will long be remembered. "Oh, David!" we would hear from the back of the bus. And then it would be, "Rabbi, can we go back to the hotel that we just came from an hour ago?" David forgot his hearing aid. And David's going, "What?" I remember walking the streets of Jerusalem and Tel Aviv with David Coblin, and both of us having tears streaming down our eyes. It was after the day's activities had finished, and we would just go out and tell each other jokes. This joke has been vetted by Rabbi Moskowitz. If you find it offensive, it is his fault. I almost walked into a lamppost in Tel Aviv after David had finished this one. So there's a blind man standing at the crosswalk, and he's got the cane going back and forth and back and forth. And finally he says, "Hey, buddy, is there somebody there?" Gentleman said, "Yes, can I help you?" "Yeah, I'm blind. Can you help me cross the street?" By all means. He helps him cross the street. He gets to the other side, and the blind man says, "You sound like a very nice guy. I got a few questions because, to tell you the truth, I don't speak to that many people that often." "Go ahead." "Well, tell me, how tall am I?" He said, "You're about 5'8". "Okay, and what do I weigh?" "You weigh about 185 pounds. "Okay. "And the schmatters that I'm wearing today, the clothes, they look good, they go together, I look like a schmendrick." "You look like a what?" "I look like an idiot." "No, you look very fine. You really do. Your attire is terrific." And then the gentleman says, "But I have one question for you." "What's that?" "What's with the accent?" "What do you mean?" He said, "You're black." When he told that punchline, and I was on Rothschild Street in Tel Aviv, out before, in front of the great ice cream place, honest to God, bam, into a pole. So not to be outdone, I had a new one for David, at least I hoped it was. Izzy's in his 90s, and he's going to the doctor for an examination. And he goes to the doctor, and the doctor tells him, "You know, Izzy, you're in remarkable shape. You really are. But your blood pressure's a little high, and so I'm going to suggest something. I know you're very virile. I know you're active, but I think you should cut down a little bit on the lovemaking." "What do you mean?" He said, "Well, tell you what. Why don't we just limit it to days that have an N?" "What are you talking about?" "Well, Monday, Wednesday, Sunday." Izzy's none too pleased, but okay. The examination with the doctor, by the way, was on Friday. And the very next day, Izzy got up, came downstairs, and said to his wife, "Good Schnabbes." I take responsibility for that one. We are in Israel, and I come into the dining room on a Saturday morning, and David stands up at the other end of the dining room that seats about 300 or 400 people, and he stands up and yells to me, "Rabbi, good Schnabbes." At which time, honest to God, a Jew from South Africa, from Australia, and the United States, 3 different guys stand up in different parts of the room and yell, "Good Schnabbes." When I left the dining room 45 minutes later, David is sitting with the Yid from United States, from South Africa, and Australia, sitting there hysterically telling jokes to each other. You're right. Why would he ever want to be in a private room? This is Purim, and so the appropriateness of frivolity is there. But as Rabbi Moskovitz said, it's also a story that needs to be told in terms of the significance of being there. You see, Esther stood up and was there for her people. And the man whom we honor and remember today stood up constantly and was there for his family, and there for his friends, and there for his community, and there for his world. We are truly honored. by this man, whose years were almost 80, but whose significance will live on forever. And so to you, his precious family, may you feel our embrace. May you feel our love, because it's just payback for all that he and you gave us. May he forever be at peace, and may you, his precious family, know healing in the days to come. Amen.
Following our service, we will proceed directly to the Temple Shalom Cemetery in White Rock. Directions to the cemetery are on the back of your handout. Also at the top of your handout is information about Shiva services. To remember David, we will reconvene here tonight at 7:30 at the temple, Sunday evening at 7:30 at David and Judy's home. And you are welcome to join the Minyonaires, our morning minyan, on Monday morning at 7:45 as well. Jewish tradition teaches us that when a person dies, their soul goes up to heaven to help God run the world. We can think for a moment about what David would be telling God about how to run the world. Good Shabbos, God. The prayer that guides the soul on its journey is called El Malei Rachamim, God who's full of compassion. I'll ask you please to rise as we recite that prayer.
They want me to chant it now.
El Malei Rachamim, Shochein Bameromim, Hametzei Menucha Nechona, Tachat Kanfei HaShechina, B'mahalot Kedoshim Utahorim, Kezohar Harakia Mazhirim, Et Nishmat Yosef David Ben Moshe V'Fredel, Shehalach Leolamo, Began Eden Tehei Menuchato, O noble harachamim, hastirehu beseter knafecha liolamim. Utzror bitzror hachayim et nishmato. Adonai hu nachalato, v'yanuach b'shalom al mishkavo. No more. Amen.
Compassionate God, eternal Spirit of the universe, grant your perfect rest in your sheltering presence to David, who has entered eternity. O God of mercy, let him find refuge in your eternal presence in the shadow of your wings. Let his soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. God is his inheritance. May he rest in peace.
Amen.
Amen. We would like to invite Ron and Jordan, Linda, Shane, Joel, and Milton to join us here beside the casket as we process to the graveside. And the family to follow us out. And then if we could all please go directly to our cars, not to greet the family here in the synagogue, but directly to our cars and then to the cemetery. Thank you.